The colony world of Eden Prime was beautiful. It floated on the edge of human space, far from the noise of Earth, a place of calm and promise. Mountains shimmered under twin suns, and wide rivers cut through green valleys. Children ran through silver fields, laughing as small drones floated above them, recording messages for families back home. Every night, the colonists sent transmissions to Earth, filled with hope and pride. "The sky here looks like painted glass," one message said. "We are building a new world, one worth protecting." For years, the colony grew. No wars, no hunger, no fear. Humanity finally believed that peace was possible, that the galaxy could be kind, but peace never lasts. The first sign came as a whisper, a small static pulse on the deep space relay. The signal operator thought it was a glitch. He tapped his screen, frowning, but the message repeated, faint and broken. "They... coming, fire, help," then silence. He tried again. Nothing. The line went dead. The next morning, every transmission from Eden Prime stopped. The outpost at New Horizon tried to send a scout ship. It never returned. Earth Command received no distress beacon, no debris, nothing. Just empty space where a world had once spoken. Inside Earth's Central Command, the mood changed. Admiral Sarah Kane stood before the holographic map, her face pale as she watched the blinking light of Eden Prime fade into black. "Could it be a solar flare?" one officer asked. "A system failure, maybe?" Kane didn't answer. She had seen too many wars to believe in lucky guesses. Her instincts screamed that something was wrong. "Something alive. Send a deep space probe," she ordered quietly. "I want eyes on that system." The probe left within hours, a silent drone slipping through the void. It would take a week to reach the colony, and during that week humanity waited and hoped. When the probe finally returned, everyone gathered in the command hall. The lights dimmed. The screen flickered. At first, all they saw was static. Then a broken image came through. The camera drifted over black skies filled with smoke. Cities burned like candles. The surface was cracked, melted. Then came the worst part. Bodies, thousands of them, frozen in orbit. Civilians, soldiers, children, drifting above what used to be Eden Prime. Some still clutched personal belongings. One child held a small flag, the blue banner of Earth. Someone in the room gasped. Others looked away. Kane did not. Her hands clenched behind her back as she whispered, "Who did this?" The probe turned its camera towards space. For 1 second, a fleet of ships appeared, sharp, dark, and alien. They moved like predators through the wreckage, scanning for survivors. One of the alien ships looked directly at the probe. Then the transmission cut out. Silence again. Earth Command was frozen. No one spoke for several minutes. The weight of what they saw pressed down like gravity itself. Finally, an older general stood. "We can't rush into war. We don't even know what they want." Kane turned to him slowly. "They didn't take prisoners." Her voice was calm, but there was steel in it. "They didn't send a message. They didn't ask for surrender. They killed everyone because they could." The general said nothing. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. The other human colonies heard of Eden Prime's fate, and fear began to rise. Families on distant worlds stared at the sky, wondering if death would come for them next. In the following weeks, Earth's communications were filled with grief. Every city built memorials for the lost colony. Children placed candles under the night sky. Ships passing the outer rim stopped transmitting for fear of being found, but grief soon turned into something else: anger. On social networks, one message began to spread, a phrase repeated by millions: "They slaughtered our people." And we did nothing. The phrase reached every corner of human space, from the miners on Mars to the farmers of Europa. It reached the soldiers training in silence, and it reached the halls of government, where leaders tried to stay calm, and it reached Sarah Kane. She stood alone in her office, watching the burning image of Eden Prime replay on her screen. For hours she said nothing. Then softly she whispered to herself, "You wanted peace. But peace is over." That night the stars over Earth seemed different, colder, sharper. In every corner of the planet, something began to change. Factories that had slept for decades came back to life. Shipyards reopened. Engineers started working through the night. The hum of war returned, quiet at first, then growing louder with every hour. For the first time in 100 years, humanity prepared for something it thought it had forgotten: revenge. At dawn, Admiral Kane walked into the command room again. Her officers stood waiting, silent and grim. "Start the protocol," she said. "What name should we give the operation?" one officer asked. She looked at him, eyes burning with quiet fury. "Eden's Vow," she said. "We will make them remember our dead." The officer nodded slowly, typing the name into the system. The words glowed bright red across the command table. Project, Eden's Vow. Status, active, and for the first time since the massacre, Earth's skies filled with ships rising toward the stars. The galaxy thought humanity was fragile, but that was before they saw what grief and rage could build. The great cities of Earth had not slept since the fall of Eden Prime. Every screen, every channel, every whisper carried the same name: Eden. The world mourned, but now it was also waiting for the leaders to speak, waiting for someone to act. In the heart of Geneva, deep under the United Nations fortress, the Earth Council gathered. The hall was silent, except for the soft hum of machines and the low murmur of voices. Dozens of generals, admirals, and scientists sat around a long black table. In the center stood Admiral Sarah Kane, her eyes fixed on the hologram above the table, the image of a burning world. "We all saw what happened," Kane began quietly. "They didn't want land. They didn't want slaves. They wanted extinction." Her voice was steady, but behind it was a storm. The president of Earth, Daniel Morrow, leaned forward. He looked tired, older than his years, as if grief had carved lines into his face. "Do we know who they are?" he asked. Kane nodded to the projection. The image shifted, showing dark, sharp ships with glowing red marks. "Unknown origin," she said. "We call them Vorak. That's the only name we have. No communication, no demands. Just slaughter." A scientist stood. "Their technology is advanced. Faster drives, better shields. If we go to war, the cost will be high." Kane's eyes narrowed. The cost was already paid on Eden Prime. The room went silent again. Outside, protests filled the streets of every major city. People demanded answers, demanded justice. Some called for peace. Others shouted for vengeance. One voice, broadcast across all networks, said what most were thinking. They think humanity will stay down. They're wrong. The Council could feel the pressure. Billions of eyes watched their every move. Every decision would shape the future, or end it. Admiral Kane turned to the holographic map. Red dots glowed, the colonies that were gone. Blue dots blinked, the ones still alive. "If we wait, the Vorak will come again," she said. "Next time it won't be a colony. It will be Earth." General Holt, a broad man with steel-grey hair, spoke up. "Then we strike first," another voice argued. "Strike? With what? We haven't fought a war in a century. Our fleets are old, our soldiers untested. Then we build new ones," Kane said simply. The president raised a hand. "Admiral, you're asking for a war that could destroy us all." "If we lose," Kane interrupted him. "If we do nothing, we've already lost." Her words hit like thunder. The room fell silent. No one looked away from her now. After a long pause, President Morrow exhaled slowly. "Then we'll do it your way," he said. "But God help us all." Across the world, Earth's command centers came alive. Old shipyards reopened. Factories began forging armor and plasma cannons. The Mars Defense Network was reactivated for the first time in 100 years. Young men and women lined up at recruitment stations. Some wanted justice. Others wanted revenge. All of them wanted Eden Prime to be avenged. In every training hall, instructors repeated the same words: "We fight for those who can't." Weeks passed. The first new ships rolled out of orbit docks. Sleek, silver, powerful. They were faster, stronger, and deadlier than any fleet humanity had ever built. Their hulls carried a single mark, a small blue flag with a silver flame, the symbol of Eden's Vow. But even as the fleets prepared, fear remained. What if the Vorak returned before they were ready? What if humanity's fire was too small to fight the storm coming from the stars? One night, Admiral Kane stood on the balcony of the orbital command tower. Below her, the lights of Earth shone like oceans of fire. Her second-in-command, Captain Juno Reeve, joined her. "The people are restless," Juno said softly.
They want answers.
"They want blood." Kane didn't look at her. "They will get both," she replied. Juno hesitated. "Do you ever think maybe we can't win this?" Kane turned her eyes to the stars. "Maybe not," she said. "But we'll make them remember us. We'll make them fear us." The next morning, the council gathered again. This time, the mood was different. The holographic map showed fleets forming in orbit, new colonies arming themselves, and humans from every world joining one banner. President Morrow spoke. "We once built worlds. Now we build vengeance. Let history remember this day." He pressed his hand to the command console. A single word flashed across every screen, every ship, every base in the human network. Activated. Project Eden's vow. In that moment, the galaxy changed. The Vorak had woken something they never should have touched. The old rage of humanity. The fire that had once burned through every war and every dark age. The stars themselves seemed to flicker as thousands of ships lifted from their docks, engines roaring like thunder across the void. Humanity was no longer a scattered race of dreamers. It was an army, united by grief, bound by fury, and ready to bring hell to the stars. They thought we were fragile, but they forgot. Even in peace, fire never truly dies. The silence of deep space was never truly silent. It hummed, with radiostatic energy waves, the whispers of dying stars. But now it was broken by something far louder. The first human fleet, Task Force Orion, moved through the dark like a silver storm. Hundreds of ships, from small corvettes to massive battlecruisers, glowed with blue thruster light. In the lead was the HSS Valiant, the pride of Earth's new navy. Admiral Sarah Kane stood at the command deck, her eyes fixed on the vast emptiness ahead. The stars looked peaceful, but she knew better. Somewhere out there, the Vorak were waiting. "Any sign of them?" she asked quietly. "Nothing yet, ma'am," replied Captain Juno Reeve, "but sensors are picking up energy fluctuations. Could be cloaked ships." Kane nodded slowly. "Then keep your eyes open. The moment we find them, the galaxy changes." 3 months had passed since the fall of Eden Prime. 3 months since humanity had declared war. And now, for the first time, they were crossing the border into Vorak space. Every crew member on every ship could feel the weight of history pressing on them. They weren't explorers anymore. They were soldiers. Each heartbeat was heavy with the same thought. "Make them pay." "Admiral, we're entering the Orion Rift," Juno said. The holographic map lit up with red streaks, energy storms and debris fields. "Perfect hiding spots for an ambush. Maintain formation," Kane ordered. "No one breaks line." Outside the viewport, lightning cracked through the darkness. Asteroids drifted silently, glowing faintly with static charge. The fleet moved between them like ghosts, silent and watchful. Then suddenly, contact! Multiple signatures bearing 090. "Closing fast!" Kane's heart tightened. "How many?" "Dozens. No, hundreds. They're surrounding us." The room filled with alarm tones. Blue lights flashed red. Crew members shouted orders, screens flickered with motion, and then they appeared. Out of the dark came the Vorak ships, black, jagged, and alive with crimson energy. They didn't look like machines. They looked like monsters. "Open all channels," Kane said sharply. "Try to hail them." Her voice echoed through the bridge, but deep down she already knew the answer. There would be no reply. A cold digital voice finally came through the speakers, metallic, emotionless. "Human vessels detected. You have entered Vorak territory. Prepare for erasure." And then the channel went dead, Kane whispered under her breath. "Then come and try." The Vorak fleet moved first. Red beams tore through the void, slamming into the human formation. The shields of the forward ships flared bright blue, holding for only a few seconds before collapsing. The first explosions bloomed, bright, silent, deadly. A cruiser broke apart, scattering fire and debris into space. "Return fire! All batteries target the lead ships," Kane shouted. The Valiant's cannons roared. Streams of plasma and railgun fire streaked across the stars, striking the Vorak lines. For the first time in centuries, humanity was at war, truly at war. Enemy shields holding. A tech officer cried. Recalibrate plasma burst to frequency 7.2, Kane ordered. Let's see if they bleed. Moments later, one of the Vorak destroyers took a direct hit. Its hull cracked, spilling dark red fire. The bridge crew cheered. Direct hit! Juno shouted. They can be hurt! Kane allowed herself a thin smile. Then let's hurt them more. The battle turned into chaos. Fighter squadrons danced between ships, chasing and being chased. Missiles tore through the black, cutting through enemy wings. Human ships burned, but so did the Vorak. For every vessel they lost, 2 Vorak ships went down. For the first time, the enemy was forced to retreat. Admiral, they're pulling back. Juno said, disbelief in her voice. Kane stared at the tactical screen. No, she whispered. They're regrouping, and she was right. The Vorak fleet reformed into a massive spearhead. Energy built up along their central ship, a monstrous, pyramid-like flagship. It glowed brighter, brighter, until the light was blinding. They're charging something, a tech officer shouted. A superweapon. Kane clenched her fists. All ships scatter. Break formation. Too late. A beam of pure red light erupted from the Vorak flagship, cutting through space like a blade. 3 human cruisers vanished in an instant, nothing left but dust. The bridge shook. Alarms screamed. Kyan hit the console. Focus fire on that flagship. Now all ships obeyed. Dozens of plasma bolts and missiles slammed into the Vorak behemoth. Its shields flickered, weakened, but still held. Then suddenly, the weapon stopped charging. The Vorak flagship drifted slightly and went dark. Silence. Did we destroy it? Juno asked. Kane stared at the dark pyramid. No, she said slowly. They're watching us. And then, as if in answer, the Vorak ship transmitted one last message. A whisper across every human radio, chilling and cold. Interesting. You fight like we used to. Before we forgot fear. Then the Vorak vanished, their ships slipping into hyperspace, leaving behind only wreckage and ghosts. The human fleet was damaged, but alive. For the first time, they had faced the enemy and survived. And for the first time, the Vorak had fled. Kane stood in silence, watching the remains of the battlefield. Her voice was quiet but steady. They came to erase us, she said. Now they'll remember us. The Vorak thought humanity was prey, but in the cold silence of the void they learned prey can bite. The wreckage of the battle drifted silently across the stars. Twisted metal, frozen bodies, the remains of ships, both human and Vorak, floating together in the void like ghosts. The war had truly begun. But this time, something had changed. Humanity had not been erased. They had fought back, and the galaxy had noticed. Far beyond the Orion Rift, in the neutral systems of the Trade Confederacy, news spread faster than light. Alien traders, mercenaries, and diplomats whispered in disbelief. The humans destroyed a Vorak warfleet. Impossible. No one fights the Vorak and lives. Then look at the transmissions. They did. Every species that once mocked humanity. Now watch them in silence. For centuries, humans had been seen as a minor species, reckless and emotional, more dangerous to themselves than others. But now, they were something else, something the galaxy feared to name. At the same time, on Earth, the victory was being broadcast across every colony and ship. Cities lit up with celebration. People cried in the streets. For the first time since the massacre, there was hope. In a grand hall beneath the United Earth Command, the surviving admirals gathered. Their faces were tired, but their eyes burned with determination. Admiral Sarah Kane stood before them. Her voice was calm, but it carried through the chamber like thunder. The Vorak struck first. They thought we would break, but they forgot one thing. Humanity does not surrender. The hall erupted in applause, the sound echoing through the steel walls. From this day, Kane continued, the galaxy will know our name. We will not hide behind colonies or treaties. We will rebuild, we will strike, and we will end this war. Her final words were broadcast through every human channel, a message that reached even the darkest corners of space. To all who think humanity is weak, remember this: you may burn our worlds, But you will never kill our will. On the other side of the galaxy, in the cold heart of the Vorak Dominion, the message reached their leaders too. The Vorak were not like other species. They were old, older than most civilizations could imagine. Their cities were built into dying stars, their ships forged from the bones of asteroids. And above all, they believed themselves invincible, until now. Inside a massive black citadel orbiting a red dwarf star, the high strategist Voran Tool watched the human broadcast. The glow from the holoscreen reflected off his scaled face. He didn't move, didn't blink. When the message ended, he spoke, his voice like cold metal scraping against stone. They defied us. They killed our ships, the chamber filled with low growls and hisses from other Vorak commanders. Then we will wipe them out, one hissed. We will crush their world before they can strike again. But Voran Tool raised a clawed hand for silence. No, he said slowly. We underestimated them once. We will not do it again. He leaned closer to the glowing map of human space. The red lights of Earth's colonies blinked faintly like sparks. They fight with emotion, with chaos. But chaos can be controlled. If you learn its rhythm, he turned to his second-in-command. Send word to the Mind Forgers. Begin Project Eclipse. The officer stiffened. Eclipse, my lord. That weapon hasn't been used in... Do as I command, Voran Tool interrupted. Let them celebrate their small victory. Soon they will beg for mercy. Meanwhile, in orbit around Mars, human scientists worked day and night to repair the damaged fleet. The HSS Valiant floated in dry dock, its scarred hull a reminder of the cost of survival. Admiral Kane stood by the viewport, watching her ship being rebuilt. Captain Juno Reeve joined her quietly. The men are ready, ma'am. They want to go back out there. Kane smiled faintly. They will. But next time we'll be ready. She turned, her eyes narrowing at the endless black beyond the stars. The Vorak wanted a war, she whispered. Now they'll have one. In the shadows of space, the Vorak moved silently. Their ships vanished from known space, slipping into uncharted regions. Something vast was being built, something the galaxy had not seen in millennia, and in the darkness, Voran Tool smiled. Let the humans roar, he said. When Eclipse awakens, their stars will die screaming. The Vorak Dominion was silent. From the outside, their space looked empty, just dead stars, broken moons, and shadows. But deep within the dark heart of their empire, something was awakening. Massive stations orbited a black hole. Energy storms raged across their surface. And at the center of it all, hidden beneath layers of radiation and steel, was Project Eclipse. High strategist Voran Tool stood before the control core, his eyes glowing faintly red. The air was thick with smoke and energy crackles. Before him, alien engineers moved like insects, chanting in their harsh metallic language as they worked. My lord, one of them hissed, the weapon's heart is ready. The star core has been stabilized. Voran Tool turned slowly. His voice was cold and quiet, but it carried through the massive chamber. Good. The humans believe they have won a victory. Let them celebrate. Let them rebuild. When Eclipse fires, there will be no worlds left to rebuild. He reached out, pressing his clawed hand against the glowing control crystal. The entire facility trembled, as if the universe itself felt fear. Meanwhile, light years away, humanity had no idea of the storm building in the dark. On Mars, the HSS Valiant was almost ready. Engineers patched the ship's armor, refitted weapons, and reinforced the shields. The crew trained day and night. No rest, no weakness. Admiral Sarah Kane spent her nights in the observation deck, staring out at the red horizon. Every scar on her ship reminded her of what had been lost, and what was still coming. Captain Juno Reeve walked in quietly. Ma'am, she said, we've intercepted fragments of Vorak transmissions. Something's moving out there, big. Kane turned sharply. Define big. Power levels off the scale. It's like a star moving through space. Kane frowned, her heart tightening. A weapon, she whispered. They're building a weapon. The transmission fragment soon reached Earth Command. Scientists worked day and night to decode the energy readings. But what they found didn't make sense. It was too massive, too unstable, too impossible. Dr. Ilara Mendez, head of Deep Systems Analysis, spoke at the emergency meeting. "It's not a ship," she said. "It's something else, something powered by a dying star. If our data is right, the Vorak are building a weapon capable of burning entire systems." The room went silent. Even the admirals who had seen entire wars froze at her words. "What happens if they fire it?" one finally asked. Ilara looked up, her face pale. "Then the light of humanity will go out. Forever." In the Vorak Dominion, Project Eclipse neared completion. Thousands of ships gathered around it, feeding energy from their cores into the black machine. It looked like a moon, but one built for destruction. Its surface pulsed with crimson veins of energy, glowing brighter with every passing hour. The Vorak engineers bowed as Vorantul entered the chamber. "The weapon hungers," one said reverently. "Then feed it," Vorantul replied. "Let it taste the void." He turned toward the main view screen, which showed the distant blue light of human space. "Their courage is admirable," he said softly. "But courage cannot stop extinction." Back in human space, the alarm was raised. The Earth Defense Network lit up across every world. Fleets were recalled, colonies evacuated, and scientists worked desperately to understand what the Vorak were building. Admiral Kane stood before her crew on the Valiant. "The Vorak are coming," she said, her voice steady. "They believe they can erase us with their weapon. But they have forgotten one thing. Rage burns hotter than any star," the crew roared in response. The fire of vengeance had returned to humanity's eyes. Days later, Eclipse moved. It drifted through space, slow and unstoppable, pulling darkness behind it. As it passed through systems, suns dimmed. Planets froze. Then, on the edge of human space, the first strike. Without warning, a colony world named Helios Prime vanished. No explosion, no warning. One moment it existed, the next only ashes and silence. The Vorak had fired Eclipse. Panic spread through the galaxy. Alien civilizations that once ignored the war now sent frantic messages to Earth. Even the most powerful empires feared the Vorak now, but humanity didn't flinch. The Valiant and the rest of the fleet were already en route. Their target, the source of Eclipse's signal. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge, her eyes burning with fury. "They want to turn off our light," she said. "Let's show them the fire they started." On the Vorak flagship, Vorantul watched as his weapon burned another human outpost. He smiled, slow, cruel, confident. "It has begun," he whispered. "The age of humans ends tonight." But somewhere deep in space, a new transmission from the Valiant broke through the static. It wasn't a threat. It wasn't a plea. It was a promise. "You wanted war." Admiral Kane's voice echoed across the stars. "Now you'll see what rage looks like when it wears a human face." Narration closing line for video ending. Project Eclipse had fired, and the stars trembled. But in the darkness of defeat, humanity's fury was only beginning to rise. The galaxy burned. Where once there had been colonies full of life, now there was silence. Whole worlds turned to dust under the fire of Project Eclipse. Even the stars themselves seemed dimmer, as if the universe mourned. But humanity did not die. They stood in the ruins, bleeding, broken, but unbroken. Because rage had taken root in their hearts, and it was stronger than fear. The HSS Valiant led the last human fleet through the darkness. Behind her followed hundreds of ships, some old, some barely held together, but all ready to fight. Every ship carried the same message: we are humanity, and we will not fade. Admiral Sarah Kane stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the holographic map. The signal from Project Eclipse pulsed in the distance, the heart of the Vorak's power. "All ships prepare for hyperspace jump," she ordered. "We go to finish this." Captain Juno Reeves stepped beside her. "Ma'am, this could be suicide." Kane didn't look away. "Then let's make it legendary." When the fleet dropped out of hyperspace, they found it waiting for them. A colossal black sphere the size of a moon, surrounded by hundreds of Vorak ships. It glowed with red cracks, like molten veins beneath its metal surface. The sight stole the breath of everyone on the bridge. "That's it," Juno whispered. "That's Eclipse," Kane nodded. "And that's our target." The Vorak fleet moved first. Dark energy beams tore through space, slamming into the human formation. Explosions flared everywhere. Ships broke apart. But the humans didn't turn back. "All batteries, fire!" Kane shouted. The stars lit up. Missiles, plasma bolts, and railgun fire filled the void, crashing into the Vorak lines. For every human ship that fell, 2 enemy ships followed. It was chaos, burning, screaming, beautiful chaos. Inside Eclipse, Vorantul watched the battle unfold with cold satisfaction. "Futile," he muttered. "They throw stones at the sun." An aide approached him nervously. "The weapon is charging, my lord." "Then let them witness despair," Vorantul hissed. "Fire on the human fleet." The black sphere began to glow brighter. Red lightning coiled around it. A beam of death prepared to unleash once more. On the Valiant, alarms screamed. The energy readings spiked off the charts. "They're charging the weapon," shouted Juno. "If it fires, it'll vaporize us all." Kane didn't hesitate. "Then we stop it before it fires." She opened the ship's comms to all channels. "This is Admiral Kane. You've seen what they do. You've seen what they take. But today, we take it back. No more running. No more fear. Humanity fights for every soul they've burned. Let's show them what it means to face us." The fleet roared in unison. Even across the radio waves, their voices shook the stars. Humanity had made their stand. But in the cold dark of the universe, something ancient was stirring, and it was coming for them. The battle became a storm. Human ships rammed Vorak destroyers head-on. Fighters dove into enemy formations, sacrificing themselves to open paths. Even damaged ships used their final power to launch one last missile. In the chaos, the Valiant pushed forward, straight toward Eclipse. "Bring us to the weapon's core," Kane ordered. "All power to engines." The ship shuddered violently as it tore through debris and laser fire. Hull breaches opened, alarms blared, but they didn't stop. "We're in range," Juno shouted. Kane's voice was steady. "Fire everything we have!" The Valiant's cannons unleashed their fury. Dozens of plasma bolts and nuclear charges slammed into Eclipse's outer shell. For a moment, nothing happened. Then cracks appeared. The weapon's energy field began to flicker. Inside, Vorantul's eyes widened. "Impossible! It cannot break!" But it was breaking. The Valiant's final strike tore through the weapon's core, exposing its star heart, a swirling sphere of pure energy. "We did it," Juno whispered. "It's open." Kane knew what had to be done. She looked at her crew, her family. "Prepare to overload the reactor," she said quietly. Juno's eyes widened. "You mean we end this, here, now?" The Valiant dove straight into the heart of Eclipse. Every alarm screamed. The hull melted. The deck shook. Kane stood tall, unflinching as the ship's systems began to collapse. "For Earth," she whispered. For every world they burned, and then light, pure, endless light. The explosion tore through space, ripping Eclipse apart from the inside. A supernova of fury and sacrifice, the Vorak fleet vanished in the firestorm. And when the light finally faded, silence. Weeks later, across the galaxy, signals began to return. The Vorak were gone. Eclipse was destroyed. And though the Valiant never returned, every world in the galaxy remembered what had happened. Humans had faced extinction and defied it. They had burned brighter than any star. Alien leaders across the galaxy met in secret, speaking in hushed tones. "The humans destroyed Eclipse," one said. "They sacrificed their greatest ship to do it. What now?" Another asked. "Now?" The elder replied quietly. "Now we never make them our enemies." In a quiet museum on Earth, beneath a hologram of the stars, a child looked up at a statue of Admiral Kane. Her mother smiled. "Who was she?" the child asked. "She was the woman who taught the galaxy what rage can do," her mother replied softly. "They slaughtered our colonies. They thought we would vanish. But humanity's rage became legend, a fire that shook the stars, and a warning that echoed through the universe: never make war with Earth.